Welcome to another Founder Wisdom Pod. We have Stephen Courson with us today. Stephen is the founder at Life Builder, previously a strategic partner at Salesforce, senior account executive at Gartner. Stephen is an author and executive coach. He's the Contrarian Investor. Love the word contrarian, and being a contrarian, I think it's one of the best ways to grow neuron cells and grow your wallet at the same time. He's a public speaker, done a TEDx, and he helps entrepreneurs and executives build their dream lives down in Gainesville, Florida. I'm in Oaxaca, Mexico, and Podpire is presenting this podcast. If you want to start and scale a podcast, make money with a podcast, you can go to podpire.com. It is the best way to generate leads nowadays, the authentic way. So we have a free ebook and a masterclass on podpire.com. Steve, welcome to the pod. Tell me a bit more about yourself and what you're up to nowadays.
It's so crazy that you mentioned the TED Talk because it was, I think, exactly a year yesterday that I did that. And I was just thinking about it when you said it. And one of the other people I was on that I did the TED Talk with, they posted about it today, and I couldn't believe all the things that had happened in 12 months since then. So it's good, but no, I'm excited to be here, and thanks for having me.
Was it profitable, the TEDx talk? Was it a good ROI via the time you invested in it?
Yeah. So the TED Talk was, for me, an accident. I wasn't actually planning on doing one, and I ended up doing it was a unique topic because with what I do with executive coaching, when you're working with people that are high performers, have growth mindsets, big goals, different things like that, you're always trying to find ways that you can help a person reach their potential or to learn something fast or whatever the case was. So I started doing research on were there any kind of ways to help people get over the pain of change? Because a lot of times that's the hardest thing. We always talk about the power of your why. And, the first thing I do is we talk about your why statement, because it does, any kind of change, no matter how big or small, has a certain amount of pain that is tied to it. That pain could be physical, could be mental, could be spiritual, whatever the case may be, but there's something. And even if it's not going to be real, we may imagine it. And what happens is, if we don't have a strong enough why, like if your why to lose 20 pounds is like, well, I just want to look good, in a bathing suit or something, that might be good enough to get you there. But all of a sudden, when you start getting those cravings and the donuts, all these other things, there's a good chance, we've seen with people and data, that you're going to go back to that. But on the flip side, if it's like, well, I want to lose 20 pounds because I want to be healthier for my children and set a good example lifestyle for them, and to be able to run around and play with them more, that's a much stronger why that will likely carry you through the pain of, going through and losing that weight. So the thing that I was really trying to figure out was, okay, is there any type of like mental hacks or techniques or anything we can do to help get over that? And what I found was that having an alter ego is actually a huge life hack. So I ended up doing this experiment on myself for 90 days because I'm like, I'm not going to recommend this to any of my clients if this turns out to be a bunch of hooey. So I went, and for 90 days, I said, I'm going to, instead of trying to make a change I want to make, I said, I'm going to take this to the extreme. I'm going to make a change I don't want to make. And I'm going to make 2 changes I don't want to make. And it's going to be miserable. And if this alter ego thing can help me do something I don't want to do, then it should definitely work for anybody who's trying to do something they do want to do. So the change was really simple. I hate running. Running is stupid. We have cars now. And my wife runs marathons. I make fun of her all the time. I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to drive down there. I'll meet you at the finish line. I love running if there's a ball involved. Like if they give me a basketball, throw a frisbee, like that's fine. But just running for the sake of running, I don't get. So I said, I'm going to run a 5K 5 days a week. I don't care if I have to walk it. Like that's what I'm going to do. The other thing is I'm a night owl. I have always kind of been a night owl, like my parents before me. And I said, I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m. So I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m. and I'm going to run 5Ks 5 days a week. I mean, like talk about miserable for my kind of lifestyle. Some people are like, dude, I do this all the time. It's not a big deal. So anyway, what I did is I created something called a super alter ego, because a lot of times people think that alter egos are like a fake version of themselves. And that is not what that is. What a alter ego is it's it's certain characteristics about yourself that you are choosing in the moment to exhibit in order to be successful. So the way that I'm talking with you now, the things that we'll go on about is not the way that I talk to my wife when I'm on a date with her, right? I'm not going to compliment your lovely hair, even though it looks fantastic today. Okay. But I'm going to say stuff like that to her. Am I being fake with you, or am I being fake with her because I'm acting different? I'm not. I'm just I'm taking certain characteristics about myself, talking about certain things to you that she would be bored out of her mind with, because this will make a successful podcast and this would not make a successful date. So that's all it is. So sorry, I didn't mean to get off on the whole TED Talk. It was a ton of fun. But the long story short of it is that I created a super alter ego called Hotshot. I gave it a name. I gave it like certain characteristics about the identity. A lot of people do this. You have Kobe Bryant, the Black Mamba. Beyonce has Sasha Fierce. She had stage fright. She used Sasha Fierce to get over her stage fright, Beyonce of all people. And within 30 days of the 90-day experiment, I was looking forward to running. Like, I wanted to do it. So it's an incredibly powerful thing. And it goes to just, again, prove something we all know, but I think dismiss, and that's the power of your mindset. So It was a fantastic experience. If anybody, it's hard to get a TED Talk. If anybody ever gets the opportunity to do it, I highly recommend doing it. And if you're interested in public speaking, it will help that career as well.
Right. And like you mentioned, it's like amplifying that part of your personality, of what you have in your brain box, right? It's adapting yourself, not necessarily lying or being fake. And I had that question for a while, right? There was like, actors, aren't they conflicted all the time? Isn't it toxic to play someone, but it's just a version of themselves, right? And I recently finished Matthew McConaughey's book, and it was so freaking
Green
good.
Lights is a good one.
Yeah. What were your lessons from that book?
I have not read the entire thing. I picked it up when we were on vacation in Maine for our 10th anniversary. But the first couple chapters that I got through, it was one of those, they had the book in the hotel kind of thing.
Yeah, the storytelling, right? Like, I guess you had some of that.
He's amazing at it. That was, honestly, now that you mention it, probably one of the best things. He is such a capable storyteller.
Yeah.
And the power of story, I think, plays out in at least the part that I read so well. So, yeah.
Right. And nowadays, what does a day in your life looks like? And is Hotshot still there?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. So, yes, Hotshot is still very much alive. He has a little bit of a different purpose now. I always tell people that the general feeling of Hotshot is that he's me, but with 2 drinks of Red Bull and a shot of tequila. So he's really high energy. He's a little bit more loose. And, a lot of times there will even be conversations. In the TED Talk, I actually used, I talked about a totem, which is just a tool or a thing or a phrase that you can use to kind of trigger instantly your alter ego. And I will have times to where, as an entrepreneur, I will be having a bad day, or I will have doubts about something that I am doing, or I won't want to do something. God, I do not want to reach out to this person. I don't want to talk. This person has been a difficult client, or this prospect is not getting back to me, whatever the case is, blah, blah, blah. And then I'll kind of trigger Hotshot a little bit and be like, please forgive me for everybody if you think this is super weird, but I'll probably be diagnosed with multiple personality disorder at some point. But I'll give you a live example. I will literally talk to myself like it's like the little devil and angel on your shoulder.
Yeah.
Only it's like Steven doing the wrong things, and then Hotshot's here, and it'll be like, and I will say it out loud. I will go, okay, I really don't want to do this thing today that I'm working on. It's a huge project. It's a time suck. The payoff is going to come way down the road. And I just want to focus on these things that are going to make me money now, even though I know I need to do this thing. And then I'll look over and I'll just be like, dude, shut up and stop whining so much. Like, just do it. Like, the amount of energy that you've spent whining, it's exhausting me. And I'll be like, okay, fine. I'll just do it. And it's weird, but it's literally like two different personality profiles in my brain. And then I just get over it and I do it. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Probably freaked out a lot of people, but that's just the pure honest take.
Well, I have the coach in me with capital letters at the beginning of each, the coach, which is mostly like Goggins, right? It doesn't surface a lot nowadays because I was bodybuilding the last couple of months. Usually I do endurance races. I have 110K coming
Very cool.
this year. So I'm pretty sure that the coach will resurface a lot, but yeah, the coach is like a guiding light. It's obviously very masculine, top authority, right? And just like stop being a bitch, sort of. And it's also very rational, right? So it gives me like clear goals. Okay, like do 2 kilometers more, and then you can take a micro break, right? It's quite strategic as well. It has some kind of empathy, but yeah, its goal is to have me finish shit that my loudmouth talker said it would, right? I think it's a great system.
And
Now,
David Goggins does it too, by the way. Me and my wife
Goggins
went and saw him speak live.
yeah, is a coach. I mean, this guy is, well, I mean, it's probably one facet of his personality, right? It's not full Goggins. Even when he speaks or the Instagram content that he drops, could find a glimpse of a nice guy in Goggins. But if I would hang out with Goggins, I don't think I'd hang out with him to be a nice guy, right? I'd just
That's
train
right.
the fuck out for just one full day with him. But how do you suggest that to your clients? Like, should they actually have that person in their mind? And what do you think about prompting an actual GPT to coach them and to be that alter ego to bring them into the direction that they would like to?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing doing a GPT. I know right before we were talking about the fact that I have zero coding ability, but I am a pretty native AI user at this point. I just built my first GPT for something else literally today, and I'm in test phase with it. But in general, what I tell people, the alter ego stuff is not like a core part of what my program goes through. It's something called the Clarity Machine. And the Clarity Machine is really just 7 steps that you go through to build a personal like strategy for your life, basically. Because this, I mean, your time is up for grabs. And if you don't control it, then somebody else will. Same thing with your money, same thing with your attention, same thing with, all these different resources that we have available to us. So, every moment that you don't control, somebody else does. And, the thing that's helpful with the alter ego, I think, and when I will bring it up to clients, is when they are having a struggle to break a habit. So, great example, phones. We know they're distractions, but at the same time, they are also an integral part of our life that it can make it hard to function. I can be on the go and I can be very productive with my phone. But at the same time, social media exists and other things that are on there. And even though I use social media for my business, I also use it to doom scroll and waste time sometimes. And when it comes to somebody who is struggling with this, because one of the things that we do when we go through the program is the key thing that I'm looking to solve for is distractions. Distractions are the enemy that are preventing you from having the life that you want. And when we recognize that and get honest with ourselves, you can get on this thing and it will tell you in no uncertain terms exactly how much time you spent on social media apps, on dating apps, on entertainment apps, gaming apps. And it's like, and I'm not even an extremist, but I just look at it and say, if over the course of a week on those 4 categories, you spent 20 hours on it, okay, 15 hours, what if we cut that down by half? What could you do with that extra time if you were more intentional with it? And then when people want to make that change but can't, that's when I'll go to them and say, okay, let's create an alter ego that hates social media and wants to go do this thing. Let's make it to where they are like, what would you say the downsides are on social media in your mind? And then they'll say it. And I'll say, okay, grab hold of that and now turn it into a thing. Make it a person. And if you don't want to go the full-blown way, the studies are very clear on this. You don't have to do what I did and like name your alter ego, like hotshot. But we actually have multiple alter egos, but that's getting into a different thing. But the point is, it's like, if you just sat there and refer to yourself in the third person, you can still get almost a third of the results as a full-blown alter ego. If you just said, Charles does not want to spend any more time on social media today because he wants to focus on the things that are important to him. Just creating that, what they call cognitive dissonance, from the I to now it's third person, Charles, like that. Now all of a sudden you are getting a different perspective on yourself, and that will help you start to change that behavior.
Yeah, and people waste so much time. Even I sometimes to create content, right? I get in a rabbit hole of constantly posting stuff and feeding off it. The question is there like really a an ROI to that? Sure, I'm getting smarter, but sometimes I get too deep in the rabbit hole. Fortunately, it's useful B2B content. It's not like bullshit content like most, but I think a lot of people waste time in that area. Uh, Specifically, if I hire you as a coach, like what is your area of expertise? Like who do you help and how specifically, and what are your pricing packages?
Yeah, no, thanks. So with Life Builder, I have 2 packages right now, and what they do, or they can be one and the same. One of the things that I noticed with executive coaching was the fact that a lot of times it's just focused on the business, and that's fine. That's good, right? It's an executive coach. But as I went and I worked with a lot of people, what became kind of obvious is that there's some things in your personal life that need to be worked out to enhance your professional performance. If your marriage is on the rocks, right? If you are struggling financially for whatever reason, that is going to slow you down in your professional life, because I don't believe in work-life balance. I think it's a bunch of crap, especially if you are an entrepreneur or a business owner. Like, there's no such thing as work-life balance. There's work-life harmony. And I think when we keep this mindset of work-life balance, we're trying to constantly separate the two. And that's just not realistic on how it works. So the first thing that I do is we evaluate your personal life. And we go, what kind of life do you want? Because so many executives, so many entrepreneurs are facing burnout at unprecedented levels. And a lot of the reasons for that, and this is just incredibly sad on top of it, they're lonely. 1 in 10 executives or entrepreneurs state that they feel extreme loneliness at some point of their day and feel like maybe they're married, but outside of their spouse, they don't have anybody to talk to. They don't have any real friends. If they wanted to talk about something outside of work, they don't have an outlet for it. Normally, the drop off is about 60% of them have not engaged in a hobby in the past 30 days. So it's like we're working harder than ever. We're more productive than ever. We have AI. We have, people we can outsource to. Like, we can get so much more done. We can work from literally anywhere in the world, for certain job functions. But we're not getting the benefit of it. We're not experiencing life. And we're hitting these goals and we're performing, but we're just blowing through it. So the first thing that I do is I say, we fast forward 3 years, because corporate strategy is traditionally built on 3 years. There's a lot of reasons for that. Won't get into it now. But corporate strategy is built on 3 years. So I like to build my life based off of 3-year roadmaps. You can dream far enough to where, you can have big dreams, but it still feels close enough to feel real, And that's the first thing we do. We build your personal strategy, and we walk through resource management, your 5 most precious resources, which is your teams, your time, energy, attention, money, and soul. And a lot of times we leave out the S, your soul being what fulfills you, what gives you joy, what gets you excited, what do you believe, what do you value? Those are the things that we have to start with. Then when we have figured out, this is what I want my life to look like, then we evaluate, okay, this is where I want to be. Where am I at right now? Okay, this is where we're at right now. Okay, so we take a very honest look at what our life looks like now. Then what we do is we bridge the gap. So this is all just the 4 phases of strategy. It's destination, where you want to be. It's starting point, where you are. And then it's the journey, how are you going to get there? And then the fourth phase is just checkpoints along the way to make sure we stay on track. So that's what I do with people in their personal life. Then we start looking at their business and we start looking at their functions there. And we pretty much go through the exact same process. The questions are just slightly different and they're tailored to your business. But that was how I fell backwards into coaching. Was I was doing management consulting with C-level executives. And I just said, I should do this in my own life. It's pretty smart. And it's been working out pretty well. So that's what I do. The packages that I have, I do annual memberships because I used to do it in sprints. But what I've realized is that, you need to engage with people for the long term, but we get the strategy done within 30 to 45 days. So the majority of the benefit, the plan, all of that we go through, I try to get people fast results because that builds momentum, which helps builds discipline. And that's what we're really shooting for. And then the rest of the year is really just focused on execution of the plan. So that's what I do. Packages range anywhere from 5,000 to 25,000, depending on, the different scope of what you're looking for. But yeah, that's what I've been doing now I've been coaching and doing this for the past 6 years. But I quit my 9 to 5 2 years ago to start doing this full time. And it's been a fantastic experience. I love doing it. So, if you want to do it, we're going to go on an adventure together. We're going to build the life you want. And we're going to do our best to have some fun while we do it.
Right. And who's your ideal customer persona and how do you get in touch with them?
Yeah. So the people that I focus on the most would be C-level executives for the most part, business owners, and entrepreneurs. Those are the people, or if you want to be one of those, if you want to be an entrepreneur. I work with a lot of people. I've got a guy that I'm talking to just as an example, and he's coming in and he's a SVP of sales at a tech company, but he's very interested in starting his own luxury watch and luxury car dealership. And he wants to go do that full time. So I literally just recorded the YouTube video for this, but it's 9 questions you need to ask yourself if you want to start your own business. So I didn't mean to do this, but I'm kind of carving out a little bit of a niche to where if you just started a business or if you want to transition out of corporate into something full-time, maybe fractional work, whatever, I'm carving out a little bit of a niche for myself there because it seems to be a very popular trend.
Right. And how do you get in touch with them? I see content on LinkedIn. Do you also do some outreach? And your posts that have gone over 1,000 likes on LinkedIn, did you actually sponsor them or did they got viral by themselves?
No, I've been posting on LinkedIn consistently for about 2 years now. I do 0 paid content. Anything that's gone viral did it on itself, kind of a thing. But LinkedIn is where I do 90% of my business. I do focus, and I am going to put a little bit more focus locally with some of the executives in town. But for the most part, it's my LinkedIn network is where I get 90% of my inbound leads. My entire career of being in sales and in management consulting, that was how I got in touch with the executives. They were much more likely to respond to somebody that's putting out content, seems to know what they're talking about, has a brand behind them, and then shoots them a very specific DM that is personalized and, speaks to their pain points. And that's one of the things that made me so successful in my career when I was in corporate, was getting in touch with executives that way and skipping email because emails flooded so much. So, and then when I started my own company, I just kept doing that and it's been a winning strategy so far.
Right. Last but not least, tell me about relationship advice. See that your wife, you post a lot about how to maintain a healthy marriage. So advice for entrepreneurs on that level, please.
Oof. This is a big one. So one of the things that we're looking to do in our CEO, I have a group that is officially launching actually next month for just CEOs, and entrepreneurs that have employees and everything. And one of the things that we're going to do starting in 2026 is a marriage retreat, because this has been something that I am no expert in, but constantly learning, right? And when you have a spouse as an entrepreneur, my wife is amazing. She's incredibly driven, but she's in the medical field. And if you know anything about people that go in the medical field, A lot of them do it because they hate business stuff. they don't want to talk about marketing. They don't want to talk about sales. It's like, they're just like, I just want to help people. And she's fantastic at what she does. She's one of the tops of her game. So the challenge that we have sometimes, she will listen to me and she loves to hear that I'm excited. And like, I'll go and tell her today, babe, I just built my own custom, GPT on OpenAI. Like I used AI to make an AI. Like it was so cool. And she'll sit there and she'll nod and be like, oh, that's really cool. Like, great job, kiss, whatever. But I know deep down she doesn't, she might ask me some questions. She doesn't really want to dive into it with me. And that's okay. I don't want to hear about the spine surgery that she assisted with that much. I mean, give me the highlights. I don't need the gory details. So when you are an entrepreneur, I think one of the big things that we have to understand when it comes to our spouses is that if they don't come from that mindset, if they're not fellow entrepreneurs themselves, which for the majority of people they aren't, we have to understand that, it's okay not to tell them everything, right? Because being an entrepreneur can take up so much of us, of who we are. And it can feel encompassing. And the thing that I would say that's really important is that that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. I don't view the fact that my wife doesn't want to sit here and talk about my DM strategy on LinkedIn with me and how this is converting better. That's great, because I have plenty of other people that want to hear about that I can talk to about that. In some ways, you have to have this mindset. She's my sanctuary away from all of that. She's my boundary marker to give me rest, to allow me to transition to being switching to a new alter ego, right? And enjoying different things about my life, being a dad, being a husband, being a guy who loves scuba diving with sharks. It's one of my, favorite adrenaline seeking things to do, right? Being that person. And without having her there to anchor that a little bit for me, and me show interest in the things she wants to do that has nothing to do with business, it helps rip me from the day-to-day grind of being an executive, of being a business owner. And I think that's one of the big things I would recommend to people is don't view if you have a spouse that doesn't want to just sit there and talk business all day with you, don't view that as a bad thing. View it as a blessing, because that's really what it is.
Love that. Where can people find out more about you, Steven?
Yeah, you can find me on my website, lifebuilder.co. And you can get me on LinkedIn just under my name. I'm putting a lot more content out on YouTube. If you just search for my name, it's just Steven Courson on there. And, one thing I will say is on my website, I recognize the fact that I don't get to work with everybody, but I love helping other people. So I try really hard to put out a lot of free stuff that, whether you work with me or not, hopefully will be very helpful to you. So there's blogs, there's videos. I have my own podcast, the Life Builder podcast, and all these things that hopefully, if you are in business and trying to do better with eliminating distractions in your life and building a strategy, hopefully you can take advantage of some of that free stuff.
Well, Steven Courson and Charles